With the introduction of awakenings, one question has become prevalent throughout the entire community, and that is, how will Luffy awaken his devil fruit? Now, it is very clear that Luffy is pretty far from being able to awaken. Doflamingo pointed this out in the fight with Gear 4th. He said that Luffy has not really come close to perfecting and being able to properly mold his powers, and he stated that he's almost sloppy, and that is the reason why Gear 4th has a time limit, for example. And it's one of the reasons why Luffy is not capable of using powers without exerting a lot of his stamina. So on top of growing his haki over time, I do believe Awakening will be another huge boost for his powers, and that'll be what kind of helps him adapt properly to the New World. We know that most people in the New World have Awakenings and Conqueror's Haki and many other skills, so it's no surprise that Luffy will need to master his Haki and his Devil Fruit in order to keep up with all of these powerhouses, especially the Yonko. But in order to understand how his awakening could potentially work, we have to understand how Paramecia awakenings in particular might operate, and we have some clues of this from what Doflamingo said when he was talking about awakenings. Now, this is the part where people don't really fully understand what Doflamingo was saying. People think that awakening is simply affecting your environment, which that is true, but that is not the entire answer, because he said that not only does it affect your body, but it also affects your environment. So in other words, on top of affecting your body, awakening also allows you to alter the environment in some way. We know that Luffy is a brawler, so affecting the environment alone might not be the most useful ability for him. It could definitely give him some new powers, but I feel like if he does learn awakening, the aspect of body control or affecting your body will be mainly what he prioritizes through his awakening. And maybe being able to affect the environment will just be an extension of him affecting his own body as well in some way. Now the question is, how will he awaken? And this is a pretty tough question because we don't really know the requirements to be able to awaken yet. It was sort of vague as to how the Impel Down Zone Guards were capable of awakening. It's pretty vague as well how Doflamingo was able to awaken, but it's pretty clear that there are some methods to be able to awaken, and Luffy will have to learn this probably from the help of somebody kind of instructing him, unless he learns it by mistake, which I kind of doubt. We know that Haki was something that Luffy could just not learn on his own, and he couldn't learn it by mistake, so he needed to learn Haki from Rayleigh for a period of time in order to master that. And Haki is just half of his power because he still has his Devil Fruit power that he needs to pretty much perfect. So who could he get help from that would be able to teach him the powers of awakening? And I think this person will probably be a member of Roger's crew. When we look at the different periods of time in the timeline of One Piece, where the Straw Hats have bumped into a member of Roger's crew, you see a pattern. At the 1% or 0% point of One Piece, which was the very beginning, we met Shanks, who inspired Luffy to become a pirate, and specifically the Pirate King. At the 25% point, we met Crocus, who told the Straw Hats about the existence of Raftel, which is where the One Piece is. At the 50% point or halfway point, when we transition into the New World, we met Rayleigh, who taught Luffy how to use Haki, and he taught him basically a lot of important values about what he needed to do to become Pirate King. So if you notice the important pattern here, about every quarter or so within the storyline, we end up meeting a new member of Roger's crew who ends up helping the crew in some huge way and ends up kind of putting in a new piece of the puzzle to helping them find the One Piece and for Luffy to become Pirate King. So when we met the Dukes on Zou, we learned about a huge new requirement to actually become the Pirate King, and that was, of course, getting the road poneglyphs. So in a way, they were also like a member of Roger's crew that helped Luffy in some way, but I do feel like when we reach the 75% point, which will be around the Wano Kuni arc, we will get a new reveal of one of Roger's past crew members, and there is a pretty big indicator as to who this person could be. And I think that person will be Scopper Gaban. Now, Scopper Gaban, we don't know his exact placement in Roger's crew, but given his name, there is a huge hint as to what rank he could have been. When you compare the top members of Roger's crew, you see a similarity in the fact that their names are based off of metals. You have Gold D. Roger representing gold because he is the captain, Silver's Rayleigh, the second in command, representing silver, and then Scopper or Copper Gaban representing the third metal. And that could be the whole hint that he is actually the third in command, or was third in command, of Roger's crew, and he might be the next person we meet in the storyline. Now, the whole idea that he might be in Wano is supported by a piece of evidence used in a cover page in the manga. In this cover page, we saw Crocus meeting with this guy in Wano Kuni attire, and he kind of has a very similar longish hair to Scopper, and we didn't get to see his face, but we did get to see at least that he was good friends with Crocus, and that could mean that he was a past member of Roger's crew along with Crocus. And if he was a past member, and it seems like he was, then this could very certainly be Scopper himself actually meeting with Crocus. And in that fact, it would obviously point to the idea that he is in some way related to Wano Kuni. He might be within Wano Kuni right now if he was wearing Wano Kuni attire. Now, it would be very convenient if he actually was in Wano Kuni right now, because we know that Luffy is going to need to get a lot stronger in order to fight Kaido or even have a chance of beating him. So if Scopper was there and he was able to sort of help Luffy in some way, I think that he could certainly give him some kind of boost, maybe in the field of awakening. Now, it's pretty obvious that awakenings are very important because Doflamingo hyped them up so much, and if Luffy wants a chance at even fighting Kaido, he will probably need this ability because it's sort of like a staple of the New World alongside Conqueror's Haki or just Haki in general. But how could Scopper teach Luffy something as complicated and probably difficult as awakening? And I think this has to be done within a small period of time because Kaido right now is very, very upset with Luffy. So there's no way Luffy is going to go away for 2 years and train while Kaido is on the hunt for him. Luffy won't make it out alive. So he needs to learn these new abilities within a very small time window. And I think that maybe he could learn Awakening within like a week or so. And you might be wondering, how is he going to learn Awakening in such a small period of time? And I think the solution has already kind of been shown to us. In Punk Hazard, we were introduced to a new drug called NHC-10. And this drug is very important because it is capable of giving you huge boosts in powers. Okay, and there were two main uses for this, which were done by Caesar. Caesar was testing this drug in his gigantification experiments originally, and he also used this drug on the giant blob of chemicals named Smiley. Now, this drug has three main effects. It makes you very, very big, and it also makes you extremely strong and agile. But the downside, or the side effect, is that it doesn't allow you to overuse it because over time you could end up dying from the effects of this drug. Now, one other use that we've seen a lot through the story of this drug is Chopper's Rumble Ball. The Rumble Ball is basically like a mellowed down version of NHC-10, and we know that it is probably NHC-10 because Chopper had knowledge of this drug before. He said that Dr. Kureha had knowledge and she actually used this drug before, which is a huge sign that these Rumble Balls could be made of the NHC-10. And the major indicator of this is that in Monster Point, he grows tremendously after eating several Rumble Balls, and he also loses control, much like the other victims of NHC-10. And after using the Monster Point for several minutes, he completely passes out, and he is basically immobile for a very long period of time. And NHC seems to have an awakening effect because we see that in Monster Point, Chopper is very similar to the Impel Down Zone Guards who were also awakened. And we also see that Smiley, who was a Salamander Zone user, he grew tremendously, gained a lot of power after consuming NHC-10. And basically after using it for a long period of time, this enhanced form that Smiley had, he died out and he could no longer use the powers anymore. So maybe if Luffy is medicated with NHC-10 by Scopper through his training, he could actually learn Awakening in a small period of time, using this as sort of training wheels to using Awakening. And we know this is very possible because over the 2-year time skip, Chopper learned Monster Point slowly by the use of Rumble Balls. But on top of that, we do know that there are very high risks to using the NHC-10 drug. So if Luffy were to be medicated with this in order to learn Awakenings, it would be very detrimental to his health actually learning this, and it could even kill him if he overused it too much. So learning it within a small time span would be very risky, but I think if he were to pull it off, this would sort of justify him learning Awakening so quickly, and it would definitely counter his current weakness within Gear 4th, which is his lack of a long time limit. He can't fight for very long within Gear 4th, and if he could fight for a lot longer in Gear 4th, he would be a lot stronger. And maybe in the future, maybe during the Kaido fight, he could awaken a whole new gear with the addition of Awakening, and that would be maybe Gear 5th or something. And with the combination of advanced Haki, he would be tremendously better than he is now. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a rating down below and subscribe if you haven't already. But other than that, I will see you all next time.